California fast food restaurants have slashed nearly 10,000 jobs due to the new $20 minimum wage as struggling franchises cut labor costs and raise prices to survive. And this is said by a major trade group just a little while ago. Welcome to the AlterNate Vantage. My name is Nate, and this is where I provide a different outlook on financial literacy, news, and generational wealth. If you like this kind of content, then don't forget to like and subscribe. All right. Back to the video. I wanted to do a quick breakdown on the cause and effect of instituting something like a minimum wage. The article I just read from is a classic example if we continue down paths such as these. This video is designed to help people understand what happens in this process so that we can not make as detrimental of decisions in the future. So let's just look at how the math works. Let's say you have a company that is earning $100 million in revenue, and we're going to assume that 25% of the revenue goes towards labor costs. So that means it's costing the company $25 million to pay for all of their workers. Now, we're also going to assume that every single one of the workers are all minimum wage earners, and the only reason I'm doing that is so you can see how the process plays through, because it works out the exact same whether or not you have executives that get paid different versus, bottom rung type workers and so on and so forth. So just work with me here, okay? So the company's spending $25 million on their labor every single year. And we're also going to assume that every single one of these people, they're all minimum wage earners that earn $15 per hour. Now, if we were to say, like in California, take that $15 per hour and bump it up to $20 per hour, that company is no longer spending $25 million a year on labor. They're now going to spend $33.25 million a year on labor. So that's an additional labor cost of roughly $8 million that the company has to account for. And if this company is one that, for example, isn't making a profit, they operate with a zero balance at the end of the year, then that $8 million difference is going to bring that company $8 million into the red. So they obviously have to do something to get back up to even or get above even and making a profit. And these are the decisions that they're typically going to make when that happens. Number one, they're going to shut down the business and go somewhere else where it's easier to operate. There's more profit margins. There's better clientele. Everything's better all around. And we see this happening in California right now. Businesses are running for the hills and they're going to places like Arizona, Texas, Florida, Georgia, and many other places. Number two, they're going to fire some of their employees because that will cut some of their overhead costs. And they're just going to hope and pray that they can operate off of a skeleton crew. Maybe they're kind of bloated and they're just looking for excuses to let people go. Or number three, which usually kind of happens in tandem with the other one, is they're going to increase their prices to compensate for those losses. So for the company that was making $100 million a year in revenue, and now they're getting hit with an additional $8 million in labor costs, their whole goal is going to say, okay, hey, well, instead of doing $100 million in revenue, let's just bump it up to 108. And the best way to do that is by increasing prices. So those minimum wage increases you just received probably contributed to job loss, and it's also contributing to inflation because you're getting higher prices. And here's the reality of the situation. The CPI, or the Consumer Price Index, shows us that the prices of everything relative to your wage, the prices will always grow at a faster rate than your wages do. So even if you're experiencing a temporary bonus because you're earning more from minimum wage, 15 to 20, that is only going to last temporarily. It's only going to last maybe a year or two, and then prices are going to catch up to you. And now you're back in the same situation that you were in before. And you're back not being able to afford things like you would want to. And let's just take as an example, like, hey, Nate, this was a company who was breaking even. What about the companies that they're not making $100 million in revenue, but they're making $100 million in profit? What about those guys? Surely we can take $8 million away from that. So that way they're only making $92 million in profit, right? I fully understand the logic of like, hey, we need to hold these companies accountable because obviously they're just making way too much money. They're just, raping everybody down here with their prices. Like, it's just not fair. I get that. I understand the logic. that's the rhetoric that they like to put out in the media because it points the finger towards someone else. But this is what we really got to pay attention to. First, if these companies were charging too much for their products, then nobody would buy them. So if the companies are able to charge this much for their products, then that means there is a demand in place for them to charge that amount. And so if they're in a dynamic, if they're in a market that lets them do that and they're making killer profits because the demand is so high and they can make that happen, then I support that 100%, right? Because here's what's happening, and pay attention to this. This is opening up the opportunity for the free market to do what the free market does best. Eventually, a competitor is going to come by and they're going to offer the same services, the same goods, the same value for half the price. And now that big company has to adjust. And then all of a sudden we have market equilibrium. This is how things play out. It might not happen eventually and immediately, but we have to keep this in mind. A company would have no revenue, it would have no profit unless we, the consumers, were buying it from them. So obviously, even if they have a ridiculous amount of profit, we, the consumers, were willing to give them that money so that they could make that profit. So, obviously the demand speaks for itself. All right. You bought the goods from them. The company is just doing a very good job at marketing and getting you to buy it. So don't blame them for your own purchasing choices. But here's the second thing that a lot of people don't consider, even when you have a company that's making an erroneous amount of profit. Okay. The second thing is this. If you had a company that had $100 million in profit, and now you want to take away 10, 20, 30 million so you can give that money to their workers, whatever the case may be. Well, that 10, 20, 30 million dollars that you're taking away from their profit actually has a compounding opportunity cost to the overall business. Because most businesses, especially if they're, $100 million plus in revenues, they're not operating off of cash per se, they're operating off of leveraged debt positions. And so what that essentially means is for every single dollar they can earn, they have 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x the amount of leverage they can achieve in debt, which is what actually allows them to expand their businesses at rapid paces. So what's happening here is, let's just say we take away $10 million in profit from this company, give it to their workers, right? So they get more bonuses, they get more pay, so on and so forth. You're actually costing the company an opportunity cost of anywhere between $20 million to $50 million. So reminder, they only had $100 million in profit, but the opportunity cost is anywhere between $20 to $50 million, and that's doubling every single year that this goes on. So 3-4 years goes by, you've already cost this company $300 million in opportunity costs, if not more. Probably think, well, Nate, this is just opportunity cost. I don't care. I'm trying to get paid today. I hear you. But what this opportunity is stifling is these companies, what they want to do for a lot of times is scale. They want to get larger. They want to open up multiple locations. They want to go into different countries. They want to go into different regions. They want to do more research development. They want to bring more markets. They want to bring more goods to the marketplace. And so if we're costing the company an opportunity cost of anywhere from 20 million in the low end for the near term to 300 million in the long term, then we're actually limiting the growth of the job place, because this company is not going to have as much money on hand to do those further developments. And those developments, in terms of what they're bringing to the economy, provides far more value than just taking a small margin of their profit and handing it to the people who are working for them. And also keep in mind on this side, when it comes to minimum wage workers, the reason why they're classified as such is because it's either a low skill or a no skill job. And so if it's a low skill or a no skill job, what that means is that there are a lot of people who can do that job. And so by basic supply and demand, companies are incentivized to pay that position the least amount possible, because they can have someone backfill that position for practically no cost at all. Anybody else can come in there and take that position. So if you're putting yourself in a position where you're in a minimum wage job, right, that's a low to no skill. I'm not saying you don't have any skills. I'm saying the skills required to perform that job is something a lot of people can do. Then you're putting yourself in a bracket where companies can pick and choose from anyone they want to put in that position. You are in high supply. And if you are in high supply, the value companies are going to be going to want to pay you is going to be at an all-time low. That's how the process works. So if you want to get paid more, then provide more value, provide more skill that not a lot of people can do for you. So hopefully this video helps you understand the different dynamics of what instituting policies like this does. Because once again, usually what's going to happen is it's going to result in location shutting down, jobs being lost, and prices going up. And even if you have a company that has a lot of what we would look at as a buffer in terms of their profit, we are limiting the overall growth of that business. And let's just say they could take that money and then duplicate their processes. So now instead of having a total labor cost of 25 million, they have a total labor cost of 50 million. They were able to double the amount of jobs they're able to bring to the market, which, like I said, has a much greater economic impact than, let's just say, if you shared an additional $10 million with those original $25 million workers. So there's a lot of different things that we can kind of pull into play here, but this is just kind of like a basic understanding of how those things play out into the markets, how they impact you directly. So at the end of the day, really, we want to incentivize businesses by providing them cost savings. And when we do that, businesses will typically speaking, pass those cost savings onto the consumers. They'll pass it on to the workers. They can open more locations and has an overall much more beneficial effect than trying to take more money from the business. Because at the end of the day, once again, the money only earned business because we gave it to them. They only earn their money because we gave it to them. So if we cost the business more money, they're going to want more money from the consumers to make up for those costs. All right, that's really the end here. If this made sense, if this was educational, if this was helpful, then don't forget to like and subscribe. And with that, I will catch you in the next one.